Is the economic recovery beating all projections? Hi, I'm Scott Neal, the broker of Scott Neal Real Estate in Richardson, Texas, and we help people buy and sell homes in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Earlier this year, many economists came out predicting doom and gloom because of the COVID situation. They immediately started to compare what's happening with the Great Depression, where we had massive unemployment for years upon years. And 6 months later, we're still trying to stabilize. However, it's really evident right now that the country will not face total devastation like was earlier predicted. And as we continue to battle the effects of the pandemic, the forecasts are now being revised. And I want to take a look at what the Wall Street Journal just reported. Quote, "The U.S. economy and labor market are recovering from the coronavirus-related downturn more quickly than previously expected," economists said in a monthly survey. Business and academic economists polled by the Wall Street Journal expected gross domestic product to increase at an annualized rate of 23.9% in the third quarter, and that's sharply up from an expectation of an 18.3% growth rate in the previous survey. So one question to ask ourselves is, what shape is this recovery supposed to look like moving forward? I know if you've been watching the news, a lot of people have been talking about a V-shaped recovery and whether or not that's going to happen. So let me just break down what each one of these are. So we've got a V-shape, a U-shape, a W, or we have an L-shape. The V-shaped recovery is all about speed. So this recovery is treated as basically the best case scenario, and if you look at it on a graph, it forms kind of a V. So economists now are also starting to use the term a Nike swoosh, which is the form of a V shape that might take several months to recover, thus looking kind of like the Nike swoosh checkmark. We also have a U-shaped recovery. This is when the economy experiences a very sharp fall into a recession, so like the V-shaped scenario. However, in this case, the economy will remain depressed for a really long time, possibly several years before growth starts to come back. You also could have the W-shaped recovery, which looks more like the economy is undergoing a V-shape, although it plunges into a second, often smaller contraction before recovery brings us back to pre-recession levels. And then we also have the L-shaped recovery, which is really seen as the worst case scenario. So this is, although the economy might return to growth, it's much, much lower, and you don't really ever kind of get back to where you were before. So I just want to share with you right quick what some of these Wall Street Journal surveyors mentioned as we look at what people are thinking the economy is going to look like moving forward. The same Wall Street Journal survey asked the economists which letter this recovery will most resemble. And here are the results. 68.5% said the Nike swoosh shape, and 14.8% said V-shaped. All others think W, U, or L-shaped. So this means that 83% of economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal say that the recovery will be in the form of a V-shape or the Nike swoosh. So what about the unemployment numbers? Well, it's hard to put a positive spin on millions and millions of people being out of work. But if you look at it in context, the Great Depression had 20% unemployment, and that happened for several years. And so far, during this pandemic, we didn't get to 20%. Now, the highest we got was right about 14 or 15%. But if you've been watching our channel, we've been giving you regular updates on what the Bureau of Labor Statistics is saying. And right now, the last figure that we saw showed that unemployment is back down to 8.4%. Now, of course, this is 2 to 3 times higher than what it was before the pandemic, but it's certainly showing that we're not in this Great Depression scenario. So as the economist Jason Furman, who's the professor at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government and the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, says, Quote, an unemployment rate of 8.4% is much lower than most anyone would have thought it a few months ago. It's still a bad recession, but not a historically unprecedented event or one that we need to go back to the Great Depression for comparison. I'm pretty sure I've given you that quote before on a different video, and economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal have also forecasted unemployment rates going forward. They're thinking by 2021 we ought to be about 6.3%, 2022 about 5.2%, and by 2023 we ought to get back to under 5% unemployment. For comparison's sake, the following table shows how the current employment situation compares to other major disruptions in our economy's past. During the Great Recession, we had 108 months of unemployment greater than or equal to 9%. The Great Recession of 2008, 30 months. The 1980s oil recession, 19 months. And in 2020, only 4 months. Bottom line is that economic recovery is still happening slowly. And so we still have a long way to go. However, the good news is that it doesn't look like we're in some sort of Great Depression again. And as long as we can beat this pandemic and as long as we can get back out there and get to work and we don't let any crazy thing derail us again, looks to me like economy ought to get back to at least close to where we were before the pandemic happened. Good news is, though, even on top of all of this regular economic news, the real estate market is going crazy right now. We've got lots of people out there wanting to buy a home, and we need more listings to sell to them. As you've been watching, we have very, very low inventory, and the market will suffer if we don't get more homes out there. So if you have a home to sell or if you'd like to buy a property, give us a call at our office. Our number is 469-998-3322, or visit us on our website at mydallashomefinder.com. We hope you're staying safe out there. We look forward to working with you soon. So thanks and happy selling.